Everything just fell perfectly into place as the Philadelphia Eagles had one of the most successful bye weeks that a team can have in the NFL with multiple trades and results from Week Nine's madness. I'll break down all of it on another edition of Eagles Digest. What's going on, guys? Alex Brooks back here on Eagles Digest to give you guys everything surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are heading into Week 10 in a great position at 6-2, and I'll recap everything that went around the NFL trade deadline and everything that we have seen from the other teams in the NFL, kind of helping the Philadelphia Eagles a little bit in the NFC. But before we get into everything surrounding that, we are currently at 884 subscribers on the channel. So if you're tuning into these videos and you haven't subscribed, you better hit that subscribe button. It is free. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles heading into this big Monday Night Football matchup against the Green Bay Packers. Want to know your thoughts on everything surrounding that. But getting right into this video as we recap the trades from Howie Roseman and this Philadelphia Eagles team. This was one of the most successful deadlines I have seen Howie Roseman have in a while. We know that back in 2017 that Jay Ajayi went to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that was the big piece that helped them catapult themselves into the Super Bowl and winning Super Bowl 52 against the Patriots. Since then, it's kind of been just a little bit of up and down for Howie Roseman to get these guys in the door and be successful. We've seen Kevin Byard a couple years ago. We've seen that with, guys like Golden Tate back in 2018. We haven't seen a lot of, multiple moves happening, maybe one or two moves, but this was three straight moves. Michael Carter II, Jair Alexander, and Jalen Phillips. And Howie Roseman, after the deadline, had a press conference and he talked about the importance of getting these guys in the door and not being complacent. He said, I feel like when there's opportunities to be aggressive for the right players, we're not going to sit on our hands. I don't think that you have great success without taking great risks at times. They've got to make sense in terms of the risks that you're taking. We can't be afraid to fail. I think for a lot of times for you to get to the top, that you've got to be willing to take chances that may look controversial at times. And yeah, that is definitely something that Howie Roseman has learned over his time as the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's been able to take chances. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We've seen it with the times that it didn't. Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. That was controversial, and that was something that really helped Howie Roseman just look at himself in the mirror and say, I'm not going to make a decision like that again, because obviously Justin Jefferson is, on his way to the Hall of Fame, and, Jalen Reagor is no longer on the team anymore. So, but it definitely did work out with A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. But when looking at what Howie Roseman, has done that has been, successful, he traded away a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. And that definitely was something that was very good for the Philadelphia Eagles to get. A little bit of a risk, but they were able to get that. But, just looking back at this deadline, the Eagles, the most that they gave up for a player was a third-round pick in 2026 for Jalen Phillips. And you may think that might be an overpay, but you got to look at the capital that the Eagles have in the draft. They have multiple third-round picks, not even including comp picks that they're going to get in this 2026 draft. So they're going to have a lot of ammunition, and you can't really draft like 15 players to your team. You got to be able to, just mix it around a little bit, maybe just having 9 to 10 players instead of like 15 players, which they had before this deadline. So getting a guy like Michael Carter to be in the slot is perfect for this team. Jair Alexander on the outside, and he can play inside as well, just be kind of that leadership that I've mentioned before. And then Jalen Phillips, he's going to be a starting edge rusher on this team. He's had, the best pressure rate among all of the Eagles defensive ends, and he's poised to have a big time role for this Philadelphia Eagles defense with Vic Fangio. I mean, he's going to look for a contract next year, whether it be with the Eagles or somebody else. So he has to deliver if he wants to make a lot of money in the offseason. And, just looking at, this defensive unit for the Philadelphia Eagles now. It's looking much better than it did back in, before this deadline. I mean, we look at Moro Ujoma, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. They are going to be the interior studs for the Eagles defense. Then you look at the edge rushers and the, outside linebackers, Jalen Phillips, Jahad Campbell, Brandon Graham. Then you look at in the inside, it's Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, as well as Jeremiah Trotter is going to be, sprinkled in there. And then you look at the other outside linebacker, Jalix Hunt. Your Nolan Smith's going to be coming back soon. He opened his practice window yesterday. Then you also have Joshua Uche, who has been a very underrated pass rusher for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, when you look at the cornerback position, it looks a lot better than it did. You have a lot more depth at the cornerback position. You have Quinyon Mitchell, who is going to obviously be the CB1. Cooper DeJean is probably going to be moved on the outside with Michael Carter going into the nickel, but they could, flip-flop that with possibly Jair Alexander. He's going to have a position to get that outside role as well. So a lot of these guys are going to have to get in that healthy competition to get a starting spot at the other side of Quinyon Mitchell. Keely Ringo, if he sees that a lot of guys are coming in here, and because he hasn't been able to perform, he can go in there and really, beat out these guys if need be. So a lot of healthy competition, a lot of depth that the Eagles have at the cornerback position. And this is something with Howie Roseman right now. He is trying. And that's something that us Eagles fans have to appreciate about Howie Roseman, is that he's always going to be trying to get the best players in this building. Not going to get Sauce Gardner, who went for 2 first-round picks to the Indianapolis Colts from the Jets. That was pretty insane, but he is going to get something that is reasonable for this year, getting Michael Carter and Jair Alexander, two guys who could be studs, who have been studs in the past, and trying to get another revival of their career. And moving over from this depth chart and how this Eagles defense is going to perform, they're going to have a big test on Monday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. Looking ahead at all of the games so far for the Philadelphia Eagles, the 4 upcoming games after the bye week, it is a little bit of a gauntlet when you're looking at this. Green Bay on Monday Night Football, that is obviously going to be a very tough game. Kind of see if Green Bay can avenge their loss against the Carolina Panthers. And then when you're looking at the Detroit Lions, that's going to be a tough game overall. The Dallas Cowboys, they upgraded on defense. That's going to be a tough game. It's always a division game. It's always going to be tough. They have a great offense. They've now improved their interior defense. So they're definitely going to, still trying to fight for a playoff spot. And then the Chicago Bears, who put up over 40 points against the Cincinnati Bengals. So they're still a team that's wanting to fight for playoff positioning. So all of these teams, none of these teams are walkovers. There's no one who you're going to look at and be like, the Eagles are going to crush that team. It's going to be a very big test for all of these games: Green Bay, Detroit, Dallas, and Chicago. And that's definitely something moving into what I wanted to talk about, how the Eagles got a little bit of a leg up in this bye week. And, just looking at what the Eagles were able to do. The Eagles acquired 3 impactful players on their bye week. The Lions, the Commanders, the Packers, the Giants, and Cowboys all lost. And the Eagles are now 3 games up on the NFC East. And this is something that is so big for the Philadelphia Eagles right now, because when looking at those guys, at those opponents, the Packers, the Lions, the Cowboys, and the Chicago Bears, that 3 out of those 4 teams lost during your bye week. So the Eagles are able to get a leg up on those guys after just not even playing. So they're at 6-2 right now. They're trying to go into Green Bay and win a big gritty game against the team that wanted to ban your play. So there's going to be a lot of storylines surrounding that. Definitely think that there is a good shot that the Philadelphia Eagles are able to make some noise there. And, just looking kind of at the division right now, the Eagles 6-2, 3 games up on the Dallas Cowboys, who lost against the Arizona Cardinals. They are up more than three games against the Washington Commanders, who lost to the Seattle Seahawks, and then the New York Giants falling to the San Francisco 49ers. So you look at this right now, you're feeling happy. You're feeling happy about the Philadelphia Eagles, but you got to know that I always am looking at this. I'm happy that, those teams lost, but I'm not going to get complacent. I'm not going to get, just, hey, we're just going to kick our feet up and it's going to be an easy road. No, these next 4 games are going to see who this Philadelphia Eagles team is, because you got to win against these big conference opponents, or you're not going to be looking as dominant as you did back in 2024. So these games still matter. All of these games still matter. It's still a long season, and the only thing you can do is just go in there and you got to win these big games, especially against Dallas. If you're able to win against Dallas in Dallas and sweep them, then we can start talking about the division, the division and putting that away in the next couple of weeks after the Dallas game. But till then, we're going to still try to get a leg up on all of these NFC opponents. And that raises the question to you guys. Was this bye week a success for the Philadelphia Eagles? Comment your thoughts down below, what you think about the Philadelphia Eagles right now coming out of the bye week, who you think that the Eagles should have grabbed in this deadline, or if you think that this Eagles team is looking very scary going into the game against the Green Bay Packers, because it is a gauntlet for the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. But I'm definitely excited to see how the Eagles are able to match up against these top opponents in the NFC. But that's going to do it for another edition of Eagles Digest. Appreciate all the support you guys are giving us on this channel. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified of all of our videos, as we're going to have so much coverage for you ahead of this big matchup against the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Go Birds and fly, Eagles, fly.